Hi, this is John from Chicago. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do a review of the Efly F80 Echo. This is a beginner FPV quad that can be flown inside, or it's best used inside. It doesn't handle the wind very good outside, but it's really designed for inside use, and it shouldn't hurt the furniture or the quad by flying it inside, or people or animals for that matter. They became real popular a little over a year ago, and now the craze this year is to learn how to fly them FPV. This comes with a camera on it, an all-in-one camera, and it's for the money, it's probably the best starting point. I paid $32 for the quad, and in addition you need to buy a set of goggles, which would be anywhere from $40 to $60. You can buy goggles up to $500, but the lower cost goggles should work just fine. So for $70, $80, you can learn to fly FPV. You will need some more batteries. I would suggest getting at least another 5 batteries, so you'd have 6 batteries. The size of the quad is 66 millimeter from propeller to propeller, and the weight is 20.5 grams without a battery. Sure where they get the name and the title of F80. It's really 66 millimeters. I've been flying this quad what they call line of sight. That's without the FPV first-person view goggles. Give you an idea what it flies like around the house. It flies fairly good. When you turn, it tends to drop, and occasionally it hits the floor like that. That's a sign of not having quite enough power, or it's a little, this weighs another gram or two more than some of my other tiny whoops with cameras. And I think it puts out a little bit less thrust than them. That might be because of the battery. I'm not sure. My battery that came with this is only a 35C battery, and the size is only 200 milliamp hours, where my other batteries were maybe 60C, and they were either 220 or 250 milliamp hour size. So the other batteries were stronger, but they're a year old, so I need to get new batteries to find out if it's the battery or the motors. You could always replace the motors too. For $10 you could put some fairly good motors in. They just plug right in. But the first thing to try always is batteries. Includes the line of sight portion of the review. Next I will go to a thrust test. I put the quad upside down on a scale, and it's showing 27 grams of thrust. This is a little bit below average. They've varied from 22 grams to 37 grams, with most of the quads being around 31, 32 grams. Now I'm doing a distance test on the quad. They say it has a 100-meter range. I'm flying FPV, first-person view. If I was doing this line of sight, I would have probably lost the sight of the quad by now. It's about halfway there. It would just be a little dot out 50 to 100 meters. The VTX signal is quite good, and the clarity is still quite good. It's starting to break up here. We're probably out a little over 75 meters, and the garage door is 100 meters, and it's starting to break up pretty bad at 100 meters. The actual control of the quad is greater than this, but I would say the FPV portion is 100 meters, so that's what you're going to be limited to. Now I'm showing some FPV first-person view flying around the playground. It's a little windy out today. There's a 8 to 10 mile an hour wind, and right now I'm bucking the wind. It's hard to go in this direction. In that direction it goes pretty quick, but it's fun to fly in playgrounds. A lot of little gaps and holes you could go through, threading the needle. So this is a fun place to fly, but you really need to do it when the wind is less than 5 miles an hour with this quad, because of the power limitations. Even your better whoops, once you get up by 10 miles an hour wind, it gets to be too much for them. So inside flying is the way to go on most of these, and in the wintertime it's a great way to hone your skills for the FPV season coming up in the spring. We will now go inside and I'll show you how the quad flies FPV around the house. It's a blast to fly in the house because you don't have to deal with wind or the cold temperature of the winter. First thing you want to do is set up a little course in the house, put a few gates up to fly through. This makes a little bit more challenge to try to hit the gates. I normally put a small gate up. That small one there was only 8 inches tall. The bigger ones are 18 to 20 inches tall and a lot easier to hit. But you want to set up a little course and just fly battery after battery. Your skill level will really increase. The next step, there are some organizations that do GP racing with the whoops during the winter months. It's nice to get in a group and do some flying. Or you can just get a bunch of friends together and each have your whoops and bring them over and fly them as a group. I listed below a link to GearBest for this quad. As I said, I paid $32, and I think it's up to almost $43 or so. I bought it on a flash sale, but they do have the purple one that's I believe at $36. And there are sales. They do have an 18% off code that could be used for quadcopters most of the time. The other option would be to build your own, add a camera to a line of sight quad. That could normally save you $5 to $10, but it's a fair amount of work, but it is fun to build your own. And then the third option is to go to the next grade higher, like a hobby grade one. They come with their own flight control board that's more programmable, and you could use a hobby grade radio transmitter. You can use a hobby grade FlySky radio transmitter with this quad. It uses the same protocol. I do recommend buying this quad as a beginner FPV quad to learn to fly FPV in the house. The pros on this quad are the low cost. It's fairly inexpensive to get into it. You're looking probably $30 to $40 for the quad, another $40 to $60 for the goggles. And then another pro is this is a very strong quad. It will take a lot of crashes. The case protects the cockpit and the board and camera good. And the FPV antenna is a dipolar antenna, which is very strong. I don't think you could break it. And then a third pro is it has very good video quality, better than most of the small quads that are out there, and it has a long range, up to 100 meters. The cons are it's lacking a little bit of power. When you do a sharp turn, it tends to drop. It bounces off the ground a fair amount of time. This is it's probably due to a combination of the battery not being as powerful as some of the top line batteries, and also the motors maybe not quite having the RPM or power of some of the top quality whoops that are out there. And then a second con, which isn't a real big deal, it doesn't come with spare props. I would like to thank everybody for watching my video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. I've included links to GearBest for this quad, along with goggles, and some other videos I've done on tiny whoops, putting cameras on and comparing various tiny whoops. Thanks for watching.